I wanna cry for you.
Japanese words I don't know.
I'll be honest, I'm very tempted in the future to make a cover of that song. Yeah.
I knew what you were going to say before you said it, and yes, please.
Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Annie Chatbox. This is an episode of a show we like to call Shoujo Treehouse. And joining me, Cami, today is the lovely, lovely Cassie. Would you like to say hi?
Konnichiwa.
Yes. Oh, yes. In case you didn't know, we're an anime podcast. We like things. We like the Japanese language. We like Japanese shows. Oh, yes. All right. And as with any episode, we're going to drop you with a couple social links. If you want to catch up with us on Twitter, you can go to twitter.com/theanniechatbox. We're also available at anniechatmail@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, you've got iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to check out our Patreon, we've got some pretty cool support tier rewards there. You can head over to patreon.com/anniechatbox and check us out.
Make Cami sing for you.
Yeah. Thanks for that blackmail. Yeah, guys, check out the other tiers. Please.
What? That's one of the best tiers.
Of course you put it as one of the best tiers. Hopefully you priced it as too unreasonable. You know.
I put it as low as you'd let me.
Right, because my voice is only worth the highest caliber.
It's true.
Aw. Anyway, as I said, this is a special episode for us. It's called Shoujo Treehouse, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about this program before we start. If you've been listening to us faithfully, you may recall an episode where the boys started their own mini-series of sorts. And they have a show called Diamond in the Rough, where they take a look at some shows that have really, really low ratings, especially on Mal, I think is the main source that they pull from, my anime list. And they take a look at the show to see if it is just as bad as the review numbers say, or if maybe there is something more. Anyway, not to be left out, we girls also have a special series that we like to call Shoujo Treehouse, where, you guessed it, Cassie and I team up to discuss shows that fall in the shoujo, josei, or slice of life genre, because we really, really like all three of those, and there's no way that we could pull John and Craig into watching these shows with us. So, more fun for us, whatever. They can hang out.
This also really gives us a chance to, in addition to the host choice, it gives us a chance to reach back into our minds and relive a show that we may have not gotten to discuss on the podcast because it came out long before we started. So it's just, another way for us to give love to the older shows as well.
Yeah, which I think can be refreshing, especially sometimes when we're just drowning in the, cynicism of currently airing shows, because I know we all do that. So it's nice to go back and revisit some goodies.
It also means I get to make Cami watch things that I've wanted to make her watch.
And vice versa, madam.
It's true. It's true.
So it is a fun trade-off. Though, Cassie was the one that suggested the show for this episode, which I had not seen. So today we're going to be talking about Hourou Musuko, or Wandering Sun. And I want to just turn the mic over to Cassie for a sec, just to address why she put me through this emotional turmoil that I am happy for. But go ahead, Cassie. Explain.
Sure. So Hourou Musuko is a show that I watched many years ago. I think it came out in 2011. Or at least around then, animated by Studio AIC Classic, which has also done Kotora-san, and is also based on a manga of the same title by Takako Shimura. And I was initially drawn to this anime back in the day because it tackled a very interesting subject matter, much like I loved A Silent Voice because it tackled bullying and being deaf, which is something that we don't see a lot, just disabilities being really nodded to. This actually nodded to the LGBTQ community. I can never say that acronym right. And specifically the transgender community, which is hardly ever touched on in any media, let alone anime. So I was super, super, super duper excited back then and was super overwhelmed with how well they handled it. And I really wanted Cami to check it out with me so we could discuss the show, maybe give it a little mini review, and also just talk about the cool things that it does. That being said, I guess I'll just toss the synopsis out really fast. Hourou Musuko is about an effeminate 5th grader, Shuichi Nitori, and he's considered by most to be one of the prettiest girls in school, but much to her dismay, she's actually biologically male. Fortunately, Shuichi has a childhood friend who has similar feelings of discomfort related to gender identity. The lanky tomboy Yoshino Takatsuki, who, though biologically female, does not identify as a girl. These two friends share a similar secret and find solace in one another. However, their lives become even more complicated when they must tread the unfamiliar waters of a new school, attempt to make new friends, and struggle to maintain old ones. Faced with nearly insurmountable odds, they must learn to deal with the harsh realities of growing up, transsexuality, relationships, and acceptance. And let it be known, these are middle schoolers, or just becoming high schoolers, I suppose. One or the other. So they're very, very young kids. I think that they're mostly like 11, 12 maybe?
Yeah, I think they start out as like 11, end of 5th grade.
Exactly. So this is a lot for somebody of that age to handle. Which really actually made me kind of impressed with the characters. At times I felt like they were too mature for their age.
I get that.
Actually, I felt that a lot. But while that might be one of the main criticisms I have for the show, them feeling a little bit too adult, I did appreciate that they gave such a sensitive topic and put it in such a, I guess, very strange environment, because you wouldn't expect to be watching a show about grade schoolers or middle schoolers or any young person. You would think they'd be, older high school or adult for them to be tackling this kind of, topic, and at all, just to make it a little less sensitive. But they went full blown, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, definitely. And so, like Cassie mentioned before, I had not seen it before, so this is my first time watching the show, though I had meant to watch it certainly for a long time, because I've heard from a lot of people that can both relate to the characters or just want to learn more about the topics that are addressed. The show has gotten a lot of good reviews and positive things said about it, so I was definitely excited to watch it. And overall, I mean, I'd say that I did really enjoy it, and I'm really glad that this was one that you picked for us. I sped through this show so quick because, like, every time an episode ended, I was just like, I need to go to the next one. I'm going to go to the next one. And it was just like, I don't know. It's been a while, especially when we've been amidst doing, like, impressions and really looking at shows and being like, is this worth it? Where's the merit here? Sometimes we get caught up in being critics, I think. But this show really gave me back that experience of just genuinely, like, falling into this world, and artistically also it's just beautiful. So being able to kind of melt into the story and feel what these characters feel and just be caught up entirely in their lives, and it was relaxing and it was really enjoyable, and I hadn't had that with the show for a long time, so that in itself was already just incredibly special.
Yeah, and it doesn't overstay its welcome either. It's only 11 episodes actually, which is much, actually less than even the average show. The average show tends to run between 12 to 13. So this was actually relatively shorter by an episode, which I don't know if it was a good or a bad thing. We can discuss that, I suppose. But I also felt the same way. It's even going back and rewatching it, because I rewatched it this last week while I was running on the treadmill trying to get these pounds off, and it was very strange to watch such a calming show while I was sweating and dying. But it was a pretty cool experience. It is one of those shows that you can take a little more from each time you watch it, which is definitely appreciated, especially in today's standards of anime.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, this was just a breath of, like, fresh air amidst all of the other current shows that we've been watching. If you've been listening back, you might recall, like, Cough Cough Grimoire of Zero, certain things like that. Oh God, I think I watched this in between when I was watching Grimoire of Zero, and it, like, saved my life.
Please see previous episodes of Annie Chatbox to see how we felt about Grimoire of Zero.
Yeah. No further indication, but I'm sure you can probably guess. And then, so let me think. Story is an interesting thing to tackle if we are just looking at trying to address, points of review, and we can make it more of a freeform talk. Story is just interesting for me to address because, like you mentioned before, I've never really seen media tackle this topic before. So I don't know necessarily, and as I am not a person that has lived in a similar situation, I'm comfortable in my body as being female, as I am biologically. So everything that I observed, I realize, is through a lens that is just kind of outside looking in, and can't necessarily relate to what other people feel, but I honestly found everything in the story fascinating. But I'm just like, I think overall it was very well told. It handled its subject matter with a lot of sensitivity and care, and that's really the most I could ask about a piece of media that is addressing this sort of topic.
I also like how it kind of addressed a topic within a topic, because you have two characters here who are transgender, a boy who wants to be a girl and a girl who wants to be a boy, and how while transgender folks tend to have problems, whether you're a boy or a girl wanting to be the other respective gender, a girl wearing boys' clothes, for example, may not be seen with as much animosity as a boy wearing girls' clothes. And that's another thing that's, without going into spoilers, also briefly addressed, which I was really impressed with. But I agree with Cami. I am completely comfortable in my own body, so I couldn't even understand the dysphoria that these kids were probably feeling. Though I think that's another great reason why they chose middle school, or whichever, either. I think it is middle school, correct?
It's middle school.
Yeah. It's great that they chose such young kids, because regardless of whether you're transgender, or I believe cisgender is the term, or whatever gender identity, whether you identify as a boy, a girl, as gender fluid, or anything else, middle school is awkward for everyone trying to figure out who the heck they are.
Yeah, there's so much going on emotionally. I mean, and they address it pretty point blank. These kids are going through puberty, and there is a lot going on emotionally, feelings-wise, and with your body changing. And I honestly think it's one of the most poignant, age points to really discuss this sort of topic. Because, I mean, and then there's also kind of the ambiguity of it too, because I know we saw other characters that maybe weren't as delved into as the leads, but that also kind of had their own self-discovery of maybe how they felt comfortable, if they felt comfortable dressing a certain way, or maybe they liked somebody that maybe they were like, oh, maybe this means I'm gay, essentially. There was a lot of that with the whole cast, which was honestly really neat and very true to life, because, everything is a spectrum. Nothing's just black and white. So I really appreciated the setting.
And also how it can feel to be the person who is the outside looking in. Because one thing that I really liked, and this could even get drip a little bit into characters, is that it starts out with the main three that were friends, which was Takatsuki and and Shuichi, or Nitori, I suppose. We can call him Shu, Nitori, whatever we feel like. But Nitori and Takatsuki, and there was also a third, Chiba, who was in their main group of friends, and just didn't have the same issue. So I think she even came to resent a lot of parts of herself because she couldn't come to understand, for example, Nitori or Takatsuki in a way that she wished she could. And that leads to conflict within their group to begin with, which is really real. And I'm happy they tackled that as well. And I actually was really, really excited to see about how you felt about Chiba as a character. I even talked to you about this off pod for a bit.
Yes, we had fun with that.
She is a character that I 150% expected Cami to hate. Even recommending this show to her, I was kind of like the evil villain in the background, twisting my mustache, going, "You're gonna hate this chick."
And to her evil villain chagrin, Chiba ended up being one of my favorite characters. Right off the bat, I think she was the first one that I was like, "Oh, I care about you, child." So funny, strange things. But I think that's also a mark that the story does a really good job of showing where everybody's coming from. They are portrayed as very real, and their struggles and their flaws are, I think, understandable. They're human.
And in addition to the main three, we do have other side characters. Sasa, I believe her name was one of my other like favorite. You don't even really get to know much about her. I loved her reactions on screen, how she just got tired of everybody. Chi-chan being another one who was really cool. There's a conversation that her and Nitori have about halfway through the series that I really appreciated. Where we got to see a side of her that not everybody else gets to see, because Chi-chan is the loud, boisterous one.
Yeah. Yeah, I recall that now.
Yeah.
You also have Mako, who is Nitori's best friend and also would cross-dress with Nitori, which you could take a couple ways. I think I'd always assumed in the show that initially Mako did it to show support and like solidarity for Nitori, but then you also get to see Mako's perspective on why he dresses the way he does, how he feels in his own skin. And just like I said, you kind of get a peek into everybody's journey, and things aren't really fully revealed. But honestly, the show, just as a story to me, really felt just like a glance into these characters' lives. You know, it's just a small few pages in a much longer book of their lives. That being said, I liked what we got, and I like that it was just a glimpse. It didn't have to fully encompass a grand tale, you know. It told a small, down-to-earth story.
Yeah, and the characters definitely helped carry that story along, because it is a slice of life. And to be fair, most of it is just following Nitori's life and how he interacts with those around him, whether it be his sister or his parents or his friends at school or Takatsuki. There's a weird element of romance as well that's addressed. That's pretty fun as well. And we could or could not delve into that, I suppose. But it definitely it does a lot of things in a very short amount of time. However, I do think this, without being as blatant as other animes, I think it's one of those animes that's like, hey, go read the manga.
Oh, yeah, completely. It's, like I said, at least in the anime, all you really get is a glimpse. If you are looking for something concrete, honestly, for any of the characters, I don't think any of them were completely closed out by the end. You'd have to read the manga. And that can, turn some people away. I think that initially I was hoping for a bit more resolve at the end than we got. However, I was left more with an impression of, oh yeah, okay, I actually want to check out the manga. I wasn't like, oh, dang it, and well, now I have to check out the manga. What a cop-out this is,
That, and I feel like you can watch it and not necessarily have to read the manga. I don't feel like it gives you the feeling of emptiness some shows do. Especially with the very last clip you see. Like, if it ended right there and I never went and read any other material, I still feel like I would have gotten what I came for. Which is saying more than a lot of series can do. Production-wise, this thing was freaking gorgeous, too. It's like watching an oil painting in motion, which was really neat. Or watercolor,
pastel
sorry.
Color palette. Watercolor and pastel like color palette was just so charming and so inviting.
Tsukigakire, this is how you do it properly.
Exactly. It really just what was it that I was going to say? I can't remember. It was soft and it was delicate, and to me it really reflected the emotions of our characters, especially our main character, Nitori, and just Nitori's like disposition and feelings, which were very soft and delicate and just kind of moving. I don't know. And that's how visually I think that the show just represented it perfectly. This is not a show where there's like a weird contrast or schism between the art and the characters in the story. I think it just all wraps up very, very perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. Especially since for such a heavy topic, it doesn't ever feel heavy. The drama or the conflict that these kids have, Nitori, Takatsuki, or otherwise, it never makes it feel like the show is beating it into your face that, oh my god, this is such a big deal. These are these kids' lives, and this is how they're dealing with it, and it's real life. And I think that the art style really reflects that, like you said. Like, it's soft, it's muted, it is what it is, and I think that it really reflects the show that way.
Definitely. Music-wise, if I'm thinking about it, I think the music was serviceable. Again, it was also reflective of the show's mood and atmosphere. was usually very soft and just charming or subtle where it needed to be. This show was one of the rare cases for me where I enjoyed the ending far more than the opening.
Yeah.
I adore the ending to this thing. It just...
wanna cry for you.
Oh my God. It got me so hard. And they did this thing that I have a weakness for in anime, and specific anime do it, but it's where maybe there's like ending dialogue or a shot going from the episode, and like the emotional peak of that scene, they start to leak in the music from the ending. And this show did this so many times, and it just made me even more emotional. And like it was just so well done. And the song, again, I do think fits perfectly with the headlining lyrics that Cassie just sang. I want to cry for you. Like you're really attached to these characters and you feel so much for them, and that's really what the song addresses, and it's just so sweet and perfect, and I love it. Okay.
I kind of felt let down by the opening for a number of reasons. One, I didn't like the song as much, and also I kind of despised that it was just a bunch of random shots of buildings.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. There came a point, I think it was around episode 3, I skipped the opening because I was just like, nope, like I have time that I need to save, and this is not like stimulating in the slightest.
It's not
like
appealing.
It's not appealing, and I also don't really think the mood of that first song fits the show. At least definitely not as well as the ending.
I agree.
Yeah. The only thing I appreciated about that opening, like once compared to something like Tsukigakure's opening, is just the fact that they did some pretty decent like motion tracking and strategic like credits placement, and I was like, okay, I see you, nice, but this is not doing it for me, so I'm gonna skip it. Let's see. Voice acting was so interesting to me because sometimes to me it felt a little bit awkward in delivery, but here's the thing. These are awkward middle school kids.
Yeah.
So at the same time, it was a very accurate portrayal.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could really like mark anything down there.
I couldn't either. And nothing felt forced. I also really liked how awkward some scenes could just, and this just goes into production as well and also story. The way that tension is created in this show is often through awkward pauses or a character not looking another character in the eye or something like that. Things that would actually occur in real life. I know that there was a situation, I'm trying to think of a way to say this without spoiling it. There was a character that gave another character something. And then a couple scenes later, another character tries to give a character something.
Ow, break me.
And it was just like, oh, well, I already got this from somebody else. Sorry.
Oh, that hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was rough. And you could just feel the tension in the air in that scene and just how awkward it was. Especially because it was just two people in the room. There wasn't anything else to play off of. And it was just like, so let's move on. And it was really well delivered and done. There's another scene later on where one character finally tries to apologize to another character. These two characters that have had tension through the entire show. And the way they deliver every line in that scene was really well done as well. And you could just tell how awkward they were just from like, you should drink your tea before it gets cold kind of deal.
There was one other scene I remember that also notably brought up tension, and again, being as vague as I can for spoilers. But there was a character and a classmate of theirs who they weren't necessarily close to, and they, for a moment, were left alone. And one of the characters went in the room with the other character and shut the door, and there was a pause, and I was so scared that something was going to happen. And I was just like, I need to know what's behind this door, and they're not showing me, and it's stressing me out. And then eventually they did, but like, oh my gosh, I just was so tense. And I was like, show, you are doing this on purpose.
Yes,
I see you.
And you know it's doing it on purpose, and that's what makes it great. The relationship building in the show is also reflected a lot in those moments. And how they take care and how people slowly become closer or slowly start to trust each other or slowly start to forgive each other. And that's really great. There are two characters that are at odds at most of the show, and you never formally see a huge apology outside of them. But, suddenly it's, I'm going to recommend a hairstyle for you, or I'm going to not be as awkward around you, or I'll try and do this and try and give you compliments in a really offhanded way because I hate your guts, but I actually really like you again, kind of deal. Which I appreciated. It's how kids do things. They're jerks.
It is. I love that. I love that whole thing. Or I think just another very specific situation where it was kids being kids is one that you've mentioned with basically, I think I could talk about it with just like her reaction. But when Sasa-chan a lot of times operates as trying to be the mediator between the group. And there just came a point where she tried so hard and then she's just like, you know what? No, I am tired of this. I'm not speaking to either of you until you figure it out on your own. And then she just kind of ran off. And I was like, yep, that's so how a middle schooler would handle it. To be fair, I didn't blame her.
Oh, no, not at all. Honestly, I feel like I would do that now.
Yeah, very true. But, like, the pettiness of the whole situation was like, yep, that's middle school. There you go.
It felt very real. And it felt... I got so much more out of this show than I do about other shows that have tackled middle school, like one being in recent memory, being Tsuki ga Kire. I think that this show nails it way better. And it's a completely different kind of, I guess, story? It's a completely different kind of story direction, I suppose. But it's still done way better. And it still deals with romance and how awkward it is. But it also deals with everything else that happens in middle school. And the more important parts of middle school, which are your voice is starting to change. Or I have these feelings that I wouldn't normally have. Or why am I so angry all the time?
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I loved everything that this show did. Did you have any drawbacks that you...
Oh, drawbacks. Okay. Yeah, just a bit. And it's not anything that was like make or break for me. It felt to me... So I actually learned a couple things. So when I watched the first episode for this watch through, I was like, and I was thinking, okay, I've tried to watch episode 1 before. And then when I was watching it again, I was like, wait, no, now I remember. I've tried to watch this show twice. But by the end of the first episode, I was so confused that I just, like, didn't go back and watch the rest of it. And now at this point, like, I was paying enough attention and I was like, okay, there are definitely things they're hinting at. But then I went and searched, and the fact is that they actually throw you in the first episode right into the middle of the manga. There's stuff that's already happened and has been established, but they're not spoon-feeding it to you, which is... There's nothing wrong with that. And honestly, I think for the most part, they do a really solid job of delivering it eventually in a way that's like nuanced and you get a sense of it. But sometimes there was a lot of jumping back and forth between different times and I would get really confused. There was one episode that begins with a character's hair being a certain length and then they immediately jump with like no hint that they are jumping to another time where their hair is different. And I'm like, but it's like how their hair looked before. And I'm like, wait, where the hell are we? Like, what's going on here?
I'm getting time whiplash, help.
Just a little bit. And I will say it was like time whiplash and a lot of it was due to haircuts, oddly enough. But yeah, sometimes I could tell when they were going back to maybe do a flashback because there'd be narration or something over it. But sometimes they would cut between like days very abruptly and I would get a bit of whiplash. I'd just be thrown off a little bit. But I think overall the show did a good job. That was just like a minor thing that I dealt with personally. I don't know if you ever dealt with that or something else.
Oh, no, I completely agree. I think that one of the things that threw me off at the beginning when I first watched this show was that you're immediately thrown into the middle of character drama that tore these 3 friends apart, essentially. But you don't know that. Yeah. You're just like, wait, why is everybody angry at each? What?
Exactly,
and then you find out, and I think it's like in the next episode or explain later that episode or something like that. They eventually get to it, but for the most part, you have to fill in the blanks yourself of what happened here.
Yeah,
and I found myself liking it once I understood that. I like when a story doesn't spoon feed me, but I can agree that it was pretty sudden, and the fact that they didn't give you anything to go off of from the beginning, it's a bit rough. It is a bit rough.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. It's that you have to fill in some blanks at first. And I absolutely agree with you, specifically with Chiba's character when she's first introduced and she's mad about these supposed rumors they're talking about. And first off, I don't even know if these are true or not. And then she just gets mad and like leave. And I'm like, what is going on?
Right? Yeah, definitely. 'Cause it's just like, wait, why are you being so angry? Wait, are these two characters actually like going out or what's going? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you get it later, but yeah, you have to actually stick with the show through the first episode, people. It'll be explained later, however, that I could see that being a turnoff.
Yeah, it was just a brief one. It definitely wasn't enough to keep me away, and I think that, like you said, if you stick through the first episode, it gets clearer. And I also think there were moments in the first episode that were poignant enough to keep me going, specifically one involving the main character and their sister, and then the aftermath of that was just a great scene. And really, you were just like, okay, yep, this is a real topic that we're dealing with. It's going to be handled with care and realistically, and I really appreciated that. Let me think. Other drawbacks. I don't think there really were in particular. Like I said, sometimes the characters would frustrate me, but again, I understood why they were like that. And then just kind of the open-endedness of the ending. But it wasn't, it's not the end of the world. And they gave you enough. I think due to like some AMVs and stuff I saw, I was misled into believing there would be this one ending that didn't happen. But, it's not the end of the world. It also ended very well in its own way.
Yep, I'd agree.
Who were your favorite characters? I'm curious.
My favorite characters? I really liked... I really did like Chiba a lot by the end. The weird thing is, though, is that I didn't like her initially at all.
Yeah.
Like, I hated her guts. By the end, I liked her a lot, though. And then the other character I actually really liked a lot was Anna. I liked her a lot as well. And I also enjoyed, weirdly enough, Nitori's sister. I really liked how tsundere she was for her brother. And not tsundere in that she liked her brother. Tsundere in that she was actually really mean to him, but really did care about him a lot. Like sisters do. I've never had a younger brother or been around any of my brothers, period. But Cami has plenty of brothers, so I'm pretty sure that maybe she could reflect on this more than I can. But that's always how I've seen, like, brother and sister siblings in my mind's eye.
Yeah, you would see little subtle moments of, like, forgiveness after conflict, and I really liked those. I also honestly just enjoyed, and again, this is how the show does very good things. A lot of times, the sister, her character is a source of a lot of tension and a lot of, like, harsh moments, but the show doesn't paint her as a villain. Just as it paints every character as being human, she is also very human, and you get a peek into her own life and the things she's dealing with. And I thought her... being tsundere with this boy in her grade was honestly super cute and very enjoyable every time I saw it.
I loved her interactions with her boyfriend. They were great.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just so cute. It was so cute, especially when they got each other sick.
Yep, when they got each other sick. I also think that there's a beautiful, tender moment from them later where she thanks him for something, and you can see in that moment that she really loves him and her little brother a lot.
Yeah.
So I liked her a lot more than I thought. I think, like, all of the characters I thought were bitchy, I loved by the end. Also, Chi-chan I loved a ton. She was crazy fun.
Nice.
Nitori was great. I loved most of the characters in this show. Who was your favorite character?
Probably Chiba. I really liked Nitori. I liked Sasa. I liked Takatsuki more by the end. I don't know.
I actually didn't care for her as much. Like, I didn't hate her.
Yeah.
But, like, it just felt like she was just there.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think, like, I honestly was not a big fan of her throughout a lot of the show, and then eventually at a point, I basically was like, yeah, okay, I like you, you're fine. A lot of her motivation and her actions didn't always seem consistent to me. Like, one reason I think I really like Chiba, she kind of called Takatsuki out on her bullshit sometimes, and I was like, yeah, you're right, I feel this. But there were things I appreciated about her, especially in, like, resolving conflicts, between the three of them. There was later stuff that I could appreciate. I think another piece of information about the show that I'd like to bring up, and again, resolving without any spoilers, I showed this to a friend of mine that's really passionate about, a friend of mine who's like lesbian, asexual, and is really passionate about genders, like just gender fluidity, gender on a spectrum, transgender identity. That's really important to her. And so I was like, you should check out the show. I haven't seen it, but I think you'll love it. And she did love it. And she told me something that she really appreciated is that they explored a lot of different relationships too. In a show like this, it's so easy to take these two transgender characters and just have them fall in love with each other. But the show explores a lot of different relationships, a lot of different feelings, and it didn't just take one straight route that one might think would be expressed. And that's really nice. I think that they had a lot of diversity in the relationships that they showed, and how the kids' feelings could operate.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that my problem I had with Takatsuki is I feel like I didn't get to see as much of her struggle as I did with Nitori.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to... you do see bits of it, don't get me wrong. 150%. But I feel like a lot of her issues were just kind of there and then gone. And we didn't really get to travel with her. But at the same time, it's Nitori's story, not hers. So I kind of get that. It's
One thing that I... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just felt like she was almost there just to be, here's the girl side of what Nitori is going through.
No, I agree with you. I didn't find her as compelling as some of the other characters.
Yeah. And not to say she's a bad character. She's not. I just don't feel that she stands out as much as the rest of the cast. Especially at the beginning of the show and the end of the show are really where she shines. But in the middle, it's just kind of like she's just there.
Exactly. What was the other thing? Oh, I was going to say, honestly, my greatest like stink with her is just the fact that she didn't keep this hairstyle that she changed to, and I was with Chiba, and I was like, this looks better on you. But she didn't keep it. Sad day. That's what I'm just so
She
stuck with
liked
her about.
herself better in a different way.
I guess. She liked it for a while. It's all right.
She still tried it. She tried something else. And then
that
she realized,
was the good years.
Maybe I like this other way better. And, I was fine with that. Though I agree. I think she did look better with the other hairstyle.
Yeah. Let me see.
But we could have, like, off-pod conversations that could go on for a long time about what that hairstyle represents. I could write a thesis paper on what that whole situation was about. Because I think they were doing a lot there, but I don't want to go into it because that'd be spoilery.
So, I mean, that said, we could probably go to final thoughts, if you feel comfortable with that.
Sure. Yeah, we've been talking for a while, and these are supposed to be shorter episodes anyway. So definitely we can wrap things up. Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
I guess we'll just keep our regular rating system with this. No reason to switch it up too much, but I love this show. It's something that I watched many years ago, and I was able to come back to and watch again with a little less being starstruck, to be honest. First time I watched this, I was like, this is a freaking masterpiece. There's nothing wrong with this. Oh my God. And a lot of the things that I felt then, I do still feel now. I do think that it's a show that needs to be watched by everybody, just because there is a point of view here that I feel needs to be discussed. And I'm so impressed that an author, let alone an author in Japan, was able to tackle an issue like this. We're having trouble with it all over the world, but especially in Japan, it's a very specific culture. And I was very impressed with them for even making this into an anime and giving it more attention. That's crazy awesome. And I'm happy it exists. But beyond that, I feel like this is a beautiful story that has beautiful characters, beautiful artwork, beautiful music, and it's just a beautiful piece of work. It's art in motion, and you should watch it. I love this show. That's it.
I wanna cry for you.
Japanese words I don't know. Do-do-do.
I'll be honest, I'm very tempted in the future to make a cover of that song. Yeah.
I knew what you were going to say before you said it, and yes, please.
We'll see. We'll see if that goes up or if I block it for a Patreon support tier. We'll see. We'll do a sample.
I will freaking become a Patreon for my own podcast.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Don't make me do this. I'm poor.
Okay. We'll figure it out. I promise. I gotta find the karaoke first. It's a long process. But back to final thoughts, I guess, on this show. I have to say that I give this show a very high like it. I did like it a whole lot. I think that I was partially ruined a little bit by the hype surrounding it because it had been around for a lot of years when I first saw it. And then it was also just some of the timeline skipping around just kind of like would take me out of it a little bit, or they would drop a lot of like different topics that couldn't all really be fully addressed. And while I think that it like that's something that I wish could have been covered, but what we still got was really, really precious and really worth watching. And I enjoyed the show a whole lot. And I am absolutely with Cassie on the vote that yes, can you please watch this show? Whatever perspective you're coming from, it's something really special that will stick with you for a long time.
Yep.
So watch it and then cry for them. More Japanese words, I don't know. Okay, play me off. Play us off.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so that being said, we hope that you've enjoyed the first episode of Shoujo Treehouse. There are more to come. Cassie, do you know the frequency of when we're going to get these babies out here, like ideally?
Right. If this is something that you enjoy, if you want to hear more, then let us know. Otherwise, the frequency will be relatively low just because we have our own lives and we're trying to balance getting you guys a new episode of regular Annie Chat Box that's much longer every single week. So we're going to keep to our heels there, but if you want more, just let us know. We will confide. We will do anything you tell us to, within reason.
I was going to say, if you have a suggestion that falls under the restrictions, don't be giving us Bible Black, please. If you have a suggestion...
That's not a shoujo show!
Exactly, that's why we have restrictions.
I hope that's nobody's slice of life.
No, I really hope not either. But if you have something within the shoujo, josei, or slice of life genre that you would like to hear us talk about, yeah, seriously, shoot us an email, bug us on the Twitter, hit us up anywhere, and we will try to get back to you as soon as we can.
We're not hiding.
That sounded like the end of a fucking voicemail message.
The point is, we're not hiding. You can find us anywhere.
All right. So that is it. We are out for the night. Thank you guys so much for listening. We wish you a good night and farewell.
Oyasumi.